Hey guys, it's Scott.
And Janie.
And we took a few weeks off from doing WTF here on YouTube, but we wanted to get back a little bit of normalcy, so we're going to be bringing it back.
So if you are at home watching, we hope that you've been staying safe, staying well, and we are looking forward to chatting with you again soon. Do you want to know the secret to a great crispy keto and gluten-free batter?
Well, today on WTF, we're going to look at fava bean protein concentrate and how you can make an amazing fried pickle, vegan mayonnaise, or even a plant-based meat. Hello and welcome to WTF, where we transform food here in the Modernist Pantry Test Kitchen. I'm Chef Scott Guar.
And I'm Janie Wang, one of the owners of Modernist Pantry. Here on WTF, every week we cover really unique ingredients, techniques, new recipes that hopefully will get you excited about working in your kitchen. And if you like what you see, remember, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, and you'll get notified of our content. It comes out every single Tuesday. And this week, we're going to cover fava bean protein, which is a new product that we brought on recently because we were working on recipes for plant-based burgers and plant-based sausages, and we found that it was a great binder in those particular applications. However, now that we brought it on, we're like, well, what else can we do with it, right? If you already bought the fava bean or you're thinking about it, obviously we want you to be able to do more than one thing with it. So we decided we would take some time, do some R&D. Scott came up with some great recipes about it. So today we're going to cover all about the fava bean protein. Now, Scott, before we get started, can we talk a little bit about fava beans, like what it is?
Sure.
Some people might have already worked with fava bean flour in their kitchen. They've heard like all these weird terms like isolate, concentrate. What does all of that mean?
All right, so fava bean is obviously just the bean, and it's not the flour. So what you're getting here is not fava bean flour. Fava bean flour is everything that is kind of ground down from the bean itself. That includes, carbohydrates, proteins, everything is inside that flour. Now, concentrate means that they concentrate out the protein, so there is a little bit of carbohydrates left in the protein. And then isolate, this is the big thing between what is protein isolate and what does protein concentrate mean. And isolate is it's completely isolated the protein from everything else. And when you do that, you're just basically just getting the protein. You wouldn't get any like those binding properties really. So one thing that we found with this, like you said, is that when we hydrated it, it became really sticky, and it worked really well for the plant-based meats that we made. But then in my mind, I was thinking, well, it can do so much more because I think we could add it to other things and try and find out different ways to use it. And we ended up coming up with some really cool things that are, vegan, gluten-free, and even keto.
Yeah. And I think this might just, bear reiterating because it's a question that we get a lot of, when people say, well, I can't find fava bean protein in my local grocery store. Can I just sub in fava bean flour instead in your recipes?
No, you can't. You could, they just wouldn't be the same recipes. They will not come out the exact same way, right? So these are specific, fava bean protein concentrate that does exactly what we needed to do. We did try a few different types of protein concentrates and everything, and they all work differently. Some of them are gritty, some of them are drier than others. This one is really sticky, really elastic, and it works really great. So for things like we're going to show off making a batter, and you can see how when it comes together, it's almost like it has gluten in it. Like almost like it has, traditional flour in it, and that's a really great quality of it. And we were even able to make like a vegan mayonnaise with it because it kind of helps bind everything together similar to the way an egg would.
Yeah, that's really exciting, and I can't wait to see kind of what you did. But for people who may not have come across the plant-based burger and sausage recipes yet, can you maybe talk a little bit about it? Of course, if you're like, what is it? All the links will be in the descriptions below. You can get the full recipe, the other WTFs where we cover them in detail, but maybe just like a 30-second recap of what are we dealing with here?
All right, so with the plant-based sausage and everything, it's we're working with, or in the burger itself too, we're working with TVP, textured vegetable protein. We're also working with the fava bean protein, and those help bind it together. But then we also have methocellulose added into it. And the methocellulose, they all kind of work together to make these really great, almost perfect vegan types of meat. So it took a lot of testing and just kind of trials and tribulations to get where we are, and the fava bean protein was a big proponent in making them work.
Yeah. And one of the things that I think is really unique about what we're covering today is that you were able to develop batters that are keto friendly, but then also gluten free. But and can you talk a little bit about why is that such a challenge traditionally, and kind of what role the fava bean plays in that?
So let's say just flour, right? We have the gluten that's in there that makes it elastic, that makes it very sticky, and then we also have the carbohydrates, the starches that are in the flour itself that help with that binding. So trying to find other things that work in the same way is very difficult. And we found with this fava bean protein that we were able to get that elasticity. It doesn't have the same, it's not gluten, so it doesn't have that same stickiness, but it works very well and very similarly, that we were able to make something we think is a little bit better, that it has higher protein content, less carbohydrates, and it's still super crispy, super crunchy.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to see it.
Cool. So I'm going to make the batter really quickly here. So first thing we're going to add is actually almond flour. So this is one base that we have, and this gives it a really kind of nice, kind of roasty, nutty quality when you're frying it up. So that helps with the flavor a lot. The fava bean protein here, so I'm just going to add that in. Right? So this recipe here, when you make the full recipe, there's 50 grams of the fava bean protein concentrate in it. And that equals out to about 7 net carbs, right? So net carbs is the amount of carbohydrates that are in a recipe that has the fiber subtracted. So it can be a little bit tricky. So if you see, let's say, 25 total carbohydrates, but then under there you see the dietary fiber, you always subtract the dietary fiber and you're left with the amount of carbs.
Okay.
So, all right, then we have a little bit of EverCrisp, which is an ingredient that we have in here that's going to make things very, very crispy. It helps, since we do have protein in here and protein loves to hang on to water, EverCrisp replaces a little bit of that protein and keeps it nice and crispy for longer. Right? And we have salt for flavor. We have baking powder. Baking powder will kind of give it that airiness as it starts to fry. And then we also have Methocel E4M. Now, one thing we found is that it did retain a lot of oil. And when it retains a lot of oil, it can feel greasy. So the Methocel E4M helps kind of repel any excess oil from sticking inside of the batter itself. So I'm just going to dry mix this up really quickly. Now, for this recipe, you can do half, the recipe itself says half pickle juice, half water. If you're just doing something like the Frito Misto over here, which is just vegetables, you can do just water. With this one, we're just going to do just water just for our demonstration here. But like I said, if you're doing anything and you want to add a little bit more flavor, you absolutely can add like a pickle juice or something. Whatever you're frying, if it comes in a brine, you can absolutely add to it. So let's mix this up really well. It takes about 20 seconds for it to start to hydrate. If you want to, you can let this sit overnight and it will really hydrate. That methocellulose will start to pull in a lot of that moisture. But for what we're doing, we don't need to let this rest. We can just absolutely mix this up and have it ready to go. So with this, we're doing dry, wet, then dry for our batter. Okay. So we have a little bit of our dry mix here. And then we have some of our pickles. So the dry mix here is just 50-50 the almond flour and the fava bean protein. So I'm just going to dredge the outside, because if I try to put anything wet directly into a batter, it's usually going to not stick to it. So I'm just going to gently add this in here. All right. We'll just do a few of these. Put them directly in there.
And this will kind of work for all types of things, like I know some people say like, I want to fry, fish, but it's kind of wet. Like, will this work with all types of
This works with everything, yep. So as long as you're doing like the dry, wet, then dry, you can do things that are very dry and put them directly into the batter. When we're working with pickles here, it's difficult because the pickles need something to kind of hang on to first. It's very wet on the outside. And think about when they fry, the first thing that's going to happen is that that oil is going to kind of penetrate and start to boil off any surface moisture, and when it starts to boil, it's going to push off all that batter. Right, so just a little bit here, and we're just getting a little bit of the dry back on the outside. Okay. So if you do 2 or 3 portions out of this batter, you can end up with as low as like 2 to 3 net carbs, which is great because fried food is not something that you generally get when you're doing a keto diet or anything like that, right? So just dust these off. And then Janie.
Yes.
While we're doing this and while we're frying it, you can try. And I know you don't like pickles, so I made you something else.
Sweet.
I made you a Frito miso just to show that it can really stick to just about any type of vegetable.
All right.
Right?
What do I have here?
We have asparagus, we have some red bell peppers, we have some mushrooms, so things with super high moisture content.
Okay.
So whatever you want, you can grab.
I'm going to grab this mushroom. I'm assuming there's a mushroom.
Yeah.
Should I dip it in this roulade?
If you want to. So
I will.
It's a remoulade, yes.
I know that we haven't gotten around to talking about it yet, but I'm going to eat it
it's
anyway.
the perfect time. So what I did with the remoulade is I added a little bit of the fava bean protein concentrate, and then I built a mayonnaise off of it. It has a little bit of guar gum, perfected guar gum, so as I make it, it's going to help hold on to that oil. So I was able to make a vegan mayonnaise that anyone can make at home, which tends to be very difficult. Vegan mayonnaise, it's super easy to break that emulsion, but with the fava bean protein concentrate and the guar gum together, I found that I was able to make a very stiff, strong mayonnaise that I was able to then turn into a really great remoulade that I've held for, I put into containers. You can hold it for up to 2 weeks, right? And it's not going to separate. It's not going to break. It's going to look great the entire way through. So
yeah, these are both like super good. You can't really tell that this batter has no gluten in it. It's still really, really crispy. I don't know when you fried this, but it's still super crispy.
we fried that about an hour before filming just because it was the first thing we did, and it's extremely crispy. And that's kind of a testament to not only the Methocel for repelling that moisture or that oil, but it's also the EverCrisp, which then keeps it crispy for, I believe the bag says up to 3 hours and 54 minutes or something like that. So it's like it really does keep it crispy for a very long time.
Yeah, and it's not greasy at all, which is one of my peeves about fried foods is when they get like super greasy and gross.
Yep.
So this is it's really, really nice, and this remoulade goes with it perfectly.
And the pickles themselves too, like we said, things with super high moisture content. These pickles are super crispy, right? You can hear it. I'll do it right into my microphone for there, Cole. Right, so you can hear that it's extremely crispy, even though it is high moisture content.
Yeah.
So as we're getting to the end here,
so good.
You can see how wonderfully crispy these are, right?
And it really has that kind of tempura with the little like bits and stuff on it, which I love.
Yes. Yep. So the more kind of cracks and crevices that oil can get into, the crispier it's going to be, and that's what we ended up here with this recipe, right?
Yeah.
Great. Really beautiful.
It really is.
So I'm just going to take these out. Great. That's pretty much it. Coming to the end here, showing how wonderfully crispy these are. And obviously just let those sit for a little bit. Don't dive in right away. And you can serve them with the remoulade. They'll be great.
Yeah, it certainly will be. And I think one thing I just want to touch upon really quickly that someone who really is going through the blog, which you can get this recipe below, and they might see EverCrisp. And I just kind of want to clarify because EverCrisp is a wheat dextrin, but we're saying it's a gluten-free recipe, and I just want to make sure that people don't they're like, hey, they said gluten-free, but this is wheat, So yeah,
wheat dextrin is it is isolated away, and it has a certain parts per million that you have to worry about with gluten. So if for some reason that worries you and you don't think you want to use it, you don't have to use it. Just know that it may not stay crispy for that 3 hours of time. It will still stay crispy. We're still frying things, and it's still going to be very nice. But if for some reason that is worrisome to you, that's fine.
Yeah,
but it is not. It does not have gluten technically, right? It has the right parts per million. It's below that, so it doesn't. But it does come from wheat.
Yeah, I think the odds of there being a gluten reaction to the EverCrisp is so low because it is processed such that it it is, I forget, it's like less than 10, or there's like some
less than 10
very
parts per
teeny
million,
tiny
yes.
number of gluten parts per million.
Which technically makes it gluten-free. So
Exactly.
Yep.
So hopefully, if you're looking for a great keto recipe, gluten-free frying recipe, this is something that's going to get you excited. You can certainly try one of our recipes here below, or do your own, modify it. I think you can probably add the fava bean protein to your own mix as well and play around with it. So which is one of the fun parts. And if you do, remember to tag us on social media, leave your comments below, questions. If there's anything else you want to see us cover, leave that in the comments below as well. We love hearing from you guys. And from here in the Modernist Pantry Test Kitchen, I'm Janie Wang.
And I'm Scott Garin. Thank you so much for watching. And if you haven't already, like, comment, and subscribe. And hit that bell so you get notified when we drop a new video.
To get today's recipes and all of our recipes, remember to go to blog.modernistpantry.com, where you get recipes, ask a chefs, tips and tricks, and more.
And if you haven't already, tell a friend so they know what's going on here at WTF.
And as always, to get any of the ingredients you saw today, you can go to modernistpantry.com to shop.
And until next time, we'll be here in the test kitchen helping you create memorable and magical experiences.